This is the Samsung Galaxy Tab A8. Alright, coming in from Amazon on one of their special deals is the Galaxy Tab A8. This is £170 off Amazon currently. That's what I picked it up for. And I thought I'd take a look at it and see how good it is. Now, this is only the 32GB version. I know a lot of people will sniff at that and say 32GB isn't a lot, but as the world goes more towards streaming and having less stuff on your device, 32GB is fair enough for installing Netflix and Amazon and a few streaming apps and things for on the go. This is the grey one and 32GB. Alright, so we have the tablet on the top there, and we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm just quite interested to see what we get in the box for 170 quid. Okay, that's not actually a box that comes out. We have a SIM card ejector tool, although I think in this case it'll be an SD card ejector tool. Quick start guide and warranty card, and then we get a USB Type-C and a charger, which is quite a slow charger. I think it said 1.3 amps, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So getting on the device, it arrives in this rather attractive case to protect it during the travel. And there it is. It's quite small. It's got a 10.5 inch screen, and apparently it weighs 508 grams. It is actually quite light, I have to say that. Well done, Samsung. It's very comfortable to hold in your hands. On this side, it's very cool because it's just come in from outside and my warm hands are messing it up right now. We have two speakers on the one side with a little microphone hole as well. Around the other side we have two speakers plus a USB Type-C connection and a little 3.5mm headphone jack down in the corner, which is a nice addition. Well done, Samsung. Thank you for that. Along this side we have micro SD card slot, and that's about it. We have a little bit of chud here. I don't know what that is. And we'll have a look at the SD card tray. And it's just a micro SD card. Obviously there is a 4G version of this available as well, or LTE if you like, but it's slightly more expensive. Along this side we also have nothing aside from a microphone hole and the power button and the volume rocker too. Around the back we have an 8 megapixel camera. So then up here along the top of the landscape side, where the power button and volume rocker are, is a 5 megapixel forward facing camera. So the screen is a 1920 by 1200 WUXGA screen, which is a TFT display. It's capable of doing 16 million colors. I'm going to turn her on right now and see if there's actually any juice in it that we can. And inside of it there's an Octa-core 2 gigahertz processor, coupled with only 3 gigabytes of memory, which is a little less than some of the competing tablets in this price range. And then of course the 32 gigabytes of storage, which I mentioned only moments ago. According to Samsung on their website, there is only about 20 gigabytes actually available for you to use after you take into account Android's installation. Beyond the new. And I'm going to whiz through the setup here. Okay, so after about 10 minutes of jumping through things and restarting the device and things, it seems to be this is an international device, so you have to pick your language and then move on to the incarnation of Android that you want to use. We are able to protect the tablet with facial recognition, pattern, PIN and password, so I'm guessing that there's no fingerprint sensor in this, but there is facial recognition, which I believe Samsung's pretty good at. And there we have it, and all up and ready to go. There's still some stuff happening in the background there that hang on a second, what's going on? Not that you're going to tell me. There's a distinct lack of ability to do stuff right now. Oh, there we're starting to catch up. Okay, Samsung UI has been a bit crazy there, I suppose. So we'll just hit wait. So it's installing a bunch of applications. Great. We pull that over, so we've got Google News on the side panel, which is nice rather than having some sort of Bixby style thing. And so far installed, we have a Samsung suite of stuff. TV Plus is there, which is very nice out of the box. At the Galaxy shop, so you can buy bits and pieces for your Samsung collection. Samsung Flow to tie yourself up with the mobile phone if you have a Samsung phone as well. Samsung members, I think that's like forums and stuff like that. Messages, voice recorders, very handy as well. We have the Google Suite as well, various different things from Google there. Google Play Movies, which needs to be updated, obviously. There's a Microsoft Suite 2 with Office, OneDrive, and Outlook's part of Office. The Galaxy Store, Samsung Notes, My Files, Phone, Messages, all fairly standard there with YouTube Music, Netflix, Spotify. That must be what it's installing now. Samsung Free, I'm not quite au fait with what that is. Appears to be some sort of news app. Fair enough. And that's all we have right now. There's going to be more that's installed, but I'm busting to have a quick go with this camera to see how it works out. If we take a wee picture of our Aston Martin here. And it actually looks surprisingly good. Zooming in, you can see that there's a lack of detail whenever you get in quite close. But it's not bad being a tablet camera. It's actually quite good. If I go for this statue here, there's quite it's a bit bland because the whites are having trouble distinguishing each other. But no, it looks all right, I suppose. There's not that much detail. It is a bit washed out. The colorant is way off. And perhaps it's not that great of a picture after all. There's a nice touch up here in the corners. You can see that it is a rounded corner screen, which makes the bezel feel a whole lot more acceptable. It is quite a wide bezel, which I would never criticize because having large hands, I hate getting fingerprints on the side of the display, and obviously prefer a case to be able to have just that little bit of extra space where your thumb and fat part of your hand, maybe you don't have a fat part of your hand, but I certainly do, leaning onto the screen so it doesn't actually touch anything. So a bezel is just a great thing to have in my books right now. Not too big, but not too small either. This works for me. I quite like this. It's probably about 3/4 of a centimetre the whole way around. And there we've got Google TV now as opposed to Play Movies. And there's quite a bit to be updated. So I'm going to go away and have a wee play with this and see what I think of it over the next couple of days. And try and use it as my main tablet and facilitate all of my media needs with it. Okay, so it's been really about 2 weeks since this arrived, and I've been using it not so much as my daily driver, but more as trying to do as many things as possible, taking it with me for, there's a few things that I can't do on this that I do on my other tablet, with the likes of Google Classroom for my son and stuff like that. But I've been using this pretty much for everything else, entertaining me whenever I go into work, and streaming and watching things. And it's all quite good. There's nothing startling to report. I would say that I am noticing that it is quite slow compared to some other ones. The Unisoc processor that's in there just can't quite keep up with some of them, and coupled with 3 gigabytes of RAM, it does have a notable lag to it. It's not the worst in the world. You can deal with it and you will sort of get around it, but it's something that you know that you're going to have to deal with on a particular basis. Now, this arrived with Android 11 on it. It's got an update to 12 pretty much straight away. Now we have 13, and just as I went to do this video this morning, there was another update as well that took it to One UI 5 upgrade, the January 9th, which already had Android 13. It was installed in the last one a few days before that. Well, I'm on a security patch from the 1st of November, so I had hoped that this would be an update to that, but obviously not. Maybe that one's going to arrive in a couple of days. But updating takes a long time. Really does. It was quite frustrating sitting here waiting to shoot this whilst the update was being applied. Now, as you can see from the tablet here, we do have some little buttons down here, which is the 13L improvements to make quality of life easier for those trying to use tablets, and they're quite good. They've been around for a while on Samsung. I know my S6, Tab S6 has them, and they are pretty handy and allows for touch operation, and whenever you're typing, you do get this rather nice split keyboard by default, and you can play around with it if you feel the need. This tablet is more set up for landscape as opposed to portrait, hence the camera being there, and that's pretty much the way I'd recommend people using it. It's not too large, it's not too bulky. I will say this, Samsung engineering is generally amazing, and this tablet is very well made around here. Not so much around here. There is a very slight lip at the side that isn't as precision as up here and over here. These are flush with the side of the tablet, but just here I can catch my finger and I can feel it along there like I'm going to get a very a slight cut and slice my finger on it, but I don't. It's not a health hazard or anything. Just feel that it's a nanomillimeter off, and it could do with just being trimmed down that wee bit more, or perhaps whenever the person set the glass in. But even at that, this is perfectly flush. So it's just one thing that made me think that this is the cheaper version of the Galaxy Tab, which it is. But Samsung have maybe been so quick to produce it, they've just got their measurements a wee bit out, the tiniest fraction out. Now, perhaps you have an A8 and you don't have this issue at all. It's not really even an issue. It's just one of those annoyances. I guess if anything, it gives me something to play with. It gives me perhaps a little bit more grip when picking it up. Maybe they did it on purpose, but it just screams at me that it's not as precision made as some other tablets. And on that, the design of the back is so bland, I don't blame you if you fall asleep right now. I mean, look at that. There's nothing there. There's this band across the top, there's a camera, and there's Samsung painted on, and some daubings down there, and then this sticker for returns or RMAs or something. There's nothing there. No design flourishes. It's quite slippery, and picking it up and dropping it down dictates that you're going to have a case. I don't have a case for this, and I've had to be very, very careful with it over the last couple of weeks, because I don't want to have to pay for the thing. Elsewhere, gaming is generally pretty good. I've had to go on this for a few tracks on various different detail levels. I think there's 3, low, medium and high essentially. I couldn't notice any particular drop frames there. The speakers are really quite good. Obviously your hand covers the bottom ones whenever you're playing a game like that on here, which can be a bit of a pain, because the top speakers don't work as well without the bottom speakers. But what are you going to do? There's no other way to play it unless you somehow clip your hands in like that and try to play it like that, which looks weird on the bus. So I recommend playing a vertical shooter. Do that instead. You get the full impact of the sound. It runs nicely. Nice. Now, one thing I noticed that is general browsing, it's not going to do it now, I did it earlier, was a wee bit chuggy. It wasn't as fluid and nice as you would expect. And that was primarily using it through Chrome. Things load quite nicely, but whenever it's oh, it's not doing it now. It's running quite smoothly, but maybe whenever I had a few things open in the background, it didn't do quite so well. But I did notice that the optimized browser, the Samsung browser, ran really smoothly. And any website that I was having a problem with, I was able to jump across onto this and use it instead. Obviously, Samsung optimized their own browser for their own hardware, and it runs really nicely. And I think that's the case with a lot of the other bits of software that are installed from Samsung. Now, the one thing I do note is that there's no email client. You're pretty much going to have to rely on Gmail unless you go into the Samsung store and grab the email client, which is always a problem with Android tablets. I don't particularly like relying on Gmail, but going into the Galaxy store means you have to have updates. But Samsung do have their own nice little notes and email office suites to play around with. See, I was concerned that they were getting rid of their email client, but you can still download it. And it was updated in December of 2002. But whenever a tablet like this arrives with the Microsoft Office suite on it by default, you do wonder if they're maybe going to get rid of this email client. Alright, so as you can see from a Geekbench score, we have 377 for a single core score, and then 1,554 for a multi-core score. So hardly anything to write home about. I'll scroll down those if you wish to have a look and see what's going on there. I saw HDR there and ray tracing there. Keywords of the day, aren't they? Moving on to multi-core. Alright, so one of the big problems that people are going to have with this Galaxy Tab is the fact that it's only 32 gigabytes, and that seems to be the one big thing that is available right now. It's difficult to find a 64 or 128. I didn't search extensively, but immediately 32 gigabytes seems to be where it's at, wherever you happen to go. Now, it does have an SD card, and that does alleviate a great deal of problems with the device. So if we go into settings, and then there isn't a storage option if I remember correctly. It's battery and device care, and then storage is there. Now, if we go into storage, I've got a 64 gigabyte SD card in here, and obviously it's the 13 gigabyte one. I've installed a couple of games, and I've got a few things on from Netflix and things in here. And we have 19 gigabytes used. So we only have 10 gigabytes left. If I go over to the SD card, you can see that it's not used that much. And I've been holding off to see how much I could install, because this is one of the reasons I don't have Plex on here, which is something I would use quite a lot. There's Asphalt 9, which is 2.63 gigabytes. Now, we can, I believe, if we go to storage, yes, Asphalt 9, storage used, internal shared storage. We can change that to the the SD card, the Blu-rams camera card that I've been using. But we have to do that with everything individually, and it takes its time. Also, formatting the SD card takes its time, I did it before we started doing this. That was another thing that took, it must have been about 10 minutes to format a 64 gigabyte storage card. Now this doesn't come with an SD card, so you have to purchase your own, which will add on another between, I don't know, 5 and, well, it depends on what size you go for, but you can get 128 gigabytes and 256 gigabyte SD cards quite cheaply now. The faster the better generally. And they can cost, you know, upward to about 30 to 50 pounds depending on what size you want to go to, or you can go beyond that if you like. I think this supports up to 2 terabytes. The official blurb on Samsung's website doesn't say, it just says it's got an SD card slot. So there we've moved the app on. Didn't happen. The screen timeout must have stopped it from happening. Okay, so that didn't work, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. The SD card I have in here is an Amazon Basics 64 gigabyte black one. It's not particularly speedy. There's no chance of an incompatibility with it being too good for the device, and it's not even giving me a reason for the error. That's a pain. What we'll do is we'll try a different app, Skyforce. That should be quicker. And that shows that it's stored on the external storage. So perhaps there is a problem. The other one was 2 gigabytes in size. Maybe there's some sort of, I don't know. I don't know why it didn't move across. It's not showing exactly what is on what, because I know the cache and data were probably on the main tablet storage, and then the app data is kept on the SD card. We can also do that with Netflix too, where we can see here it's got 63 gigabytes of SD card storage available, so we can do that and then sync all of our stuff down to there, which means we can take a great deal more with us and leave the main storage for app data and installing our own stuff that we want to have there. It's a bit of a pain to have to do, to be honest, and especially if it's not going to work whenever you sit and wait on it for ages. One of the things that I hinted at earlier was Google Discovery is now available on the left-hand side, and I think all in £169.99 for this is pretty good, because you are getting a superior build quality to a lot of the cheaper tablets that are out there. 32 gigabytes isn't a heck of a lot, but obviously if you can find the 64 gigabyte version or larger, then that would be preferable, rather than having to go and move everything manually over to the SD card. I know some people will just go, you can get an SD card, that's fine, but there is a pain in the ass involved in using that, and also your SD card can frequently unmount. I've had this in the past where I've had a smaller tablet, and one day I've picked it up and the SD card has corrupted for whatever reason, and I've lost everything that was on there and had to resync everything and move it all across manually. It is just better to get a bigger, better storage solution from the start. But if you don't require storage and you just want to sit on the sofa and browse the internet and do stuff on this, then this is a great tablet to be doing that with. The screen is very bright and vibrant. The colors look very good. The sound is excellent for this price bracket. The 4 speakers really do make a huge difference to day and daily usage. The Samsung suite is not as complete as other tablets, but there's still a good amount of stuff here to give you value. But all in, it's fine. The camera works quite nicely. It is a bit of an annoyance. That camera protrudes. There's a bit of protection around the outside, but I don't like setting it down on top of the camera. That can be a bit of an issue. Everything around the side is nice. It's nicely finished. So yeah, for £170 all in, and with some of the finance deals that you can get from the likes of Amazon and things, it makes it a bit of a no-brainer for anyone who just wants a bit of a tablet to play around with. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments box down below. Let me know if you own one of these, or if you own something that you think is superior, or other recommendations for people who are looking to purchase these. Stick it down in the comments box down below. And other than that, take care.